Coach, have you guys decided on a game 2 starter?
Casey Mize will pitch game 2, Jack Flaherty game 3.
Just coming into this series, you guys have a lot of pitchers with a lot of experience under their belt. How important is that, even though they might not be pitching a certain game, having that expertise coming in?
Yeah, I think experience matters. I also think players' ability to stay in the moment is sort of equally as important. And so if you have a young guy, whether it's on the mound or at the plate, getting them just center focused on where their feet are and just enjoying the competition is really important. Experience will help you, breathe a little bit easier, center focus a little bit more, adjust, and things like that. But this is an excitable moment, and we should embrace that. Like, we shouldn't run away and try to be the cool guy. Like, we do have a lot of experience. We were in this exact situation last year. And so that experience, I think, will help all of our guys. But on the mound, I don't think, whether it's Tarek or guys on their side are going to get caught up in the moment. They're going to get into the competition.
How did Casey take that news, especially after not getting the opportunity last year?
Yeah. Well, I joked with him that we could have gone to the same place in the same ballpark and had a completely different conversation yesterday because I was going around and talking to some of the guys that didn't know whether they were on the team or not. We knew we were going to have to cut down 2 guys regardless of position. So I talked to Casey yesterday as he was in the clubhouse. I said, "You want to walk out to the exact spot where I told you weren't on the roster, and we can just exercise that demon and be done with it?" And he said no. And as soon as I told Casey was on the roster, Tarek came over and gave him a high five. So we had a funny moment there, and then I told him he was going to pitch game 2, and he's ready to go. So we have both. He and Jack were prepared from a bullpen standpoint and workload standpoint to be ready for game 2, and now we can adjust Jack's work a little bit.
Like watching Casey start in Boston against the Red Sox, and how much does that give you confidence going into this one?
Yeah, that was really, really good to see on a lot of fronts because the fastball was legit. The split was there. His breaking ball was there. He was in complete control. And when we had started that game, our season, was still undecided. And so there was a lot going into that start, and he stepped up in a tough park to pitch in and pitch exceptionally well. So it was good to see him be able to, stay in the moment and just be himself and be the pitcher that we know he can be and that he has been throughout the majority of this season. And he's throwing the ball as well as he has at any point of the season right now, which is the perfect time to be doing well.
Yeah, to follow up just with Casey again, when we asked him about what the difference was between him down the stretch in September and earlier when he scuffled a little bit, he put a lot of on the slider, the fact that he's throwing his slider harder. From your vantage point, was there more to that, or do you think that's the pitch that kind of unlocked everything else?
Well, if he thinks that, I think that, because he's got the ball in his hand and he's on the mound. I think it all comes together, I think, with a convicted fastball, and everything plays off of that. Doesn't mean you're always going to throw the fastball, or doesn't mean it's even the most primary pitch for him, but when his delivery is synced up and he has a conviction behind his fastball, then everything plays up better. And him having a third weapon against either side hitter is any pitcher will tell you is a huge advantage. So what's going through a pitcher's mind is by far the most important aspect of the mental approach to pitching against a lineup. And if that's what gives them confidence and gets the results that we're getting right now, then that's it.
You mentioned experience a couple times. Last year, you rolled into Houston with none, and it seems like a lifetime ago. But from your experience, how do those experiences stack on each other and make this different?
Yeah, well, there's a lot less to explain to our players on how this all goes, right? Whether it's the the morning meeting obligations, it's the preparation, it's the getting your family in, to an unknown city for us until Saturday. It's the chaos that surrounds the playoffs. The first time you go through is pretty overwhelming, and a lot of it's not even about the baseball. Once you get to the game, then it's awesome. Everybody plays baseball, but all the extra stuff that comes with being a playoff team, was a first last year, pretty easy this year. Like the players have adjusted and adapted pretty well. I mean, even the workout yesterday, last year, they felt like they had to do everything. This year, they all sprinkled out and did a little bit of something, but we individualized it to where it was just get the most out of yourself so you're ready to play at your best at 1:00 tomorrow. That is received a little bit, more constructively this year. So I see a more grounded team and a more balanced team coming into this series than the chaos of last year.
Anthony on the left.
AJ, the intimate knowledge these two teams have of each other is obviously a theme, but they just rostered a guy who hasn't debuted, hasn't played in a few months, so not that he's leading off or anything, but how do your pitchers prepare for that?
Well, the good news is Tomas Nido joined us yesterday, who caught in Toledo, so we have an expert in a new player who spent the time in AAA. So I think his. We knew coming into yesterday, our guys follow it pretty closely of what the possibilities were. And you can't get into the building and not be seen by somebody. So we had some time to talk. And we have some pitchers and position players who spent some time in Toledo this year as well. So that, and it's funny, like our teams, not only are we, sort of intimately close at the big league level, but in AAA, in AA, in single, like we play these guys coming up throughout. And so you'll hear our hitters talk about facing these guys in Akron or facing these guys in Erie, along with Toledo and Columbus. So it's a different, it's a unique top half of your organization that overlaps quite a bit, and there are no surprises even when a new guy comes up for the first time.
Second round. When we talk about you guys have played this team 6 times in the last 2 weeks, obviously the pitcher preparation becomes different because you know them a little bit more intimately. What have you learned about the Guardians' offense, their bats, and how they're difficult to pitch against?
Yeah, I mean they're willing to play a lot of different brands of baseball, and I think they're adaptable, to the situation. Like last week, they weren't really doing a ton swinging the bat against Skubal, and all of a sudden they turn to back-to-back bunts, and they get a couple infield choppers, and they put up a 3-spot. And when you look up on the board, if you look across the game and you see somebody put up a 3-spot, you rarely see that without the ball leaving the infield or even leaving the yard. So on the flip side of it, like they can play big boy ball too. Like it's not just trying to touch it, and they've got some guys that get the ball at the ballpark. When you look at Ramirez and Manzardo and obviously, Quan can do a lot of different things. If you shift him over a little bit, he'll knock it the other way. If you play traditional, he'll knock it in a hole in the pull side. So I think their adaptability is one of their more endearing qualities as an offense. And they're momentum-based. I mean, they do try to put together multiple quality at-bats in a row to make it really hard on you. So I've never seen, I think, a bench with 6 left-handed hitters. And so like things like that they're willing to do to try to put a lot of pressure on our decisions in the back end of our bullpen that's primarily right-handed. So those are some thoughts that come to mind when I think of Cleveland.
On the right, Jason.
You had some decisions to make for that final spot or two in your bullpen. What do you like about Cater Montero in that type of role, and how much did what you saw from him in Boston?
Yeah, I think obviously our fans and probably the Guardian fans will remember, like Cater started a really important game last year in the playoffs against this team, and we ambushed him with taking him out of the lineup as we were going with mostly bullpen games. But his outing in Boston mattered too, with how he could command his fastball. The fastball was ticked up a little bit. The breaking ball is really good. He's thrown some pretty effective sequences to this particular team. I know he can go long if we need to. Now I don't know what long is in the playoffs, because usually it's a fast-paced, like the gate's usually always open in the bullpen, but his versatility and his weapons against this lineup was attractive. Other thoughts are just trying to match up with the possibilities of, these games can turn into a memorable starter, anchor, guy goes deep into the game like we all grew up watching, or sometimes they turn into 9 pitchers in 9 innings. And you've got to sort of account for both of them when you're building your roster, with a lot of unknown of when's the elimination game and who's on the possibility of being eliminated. and you got to make the decision before the series before you even know what game 2 and game 3 will bring.
So more of a general question, but when you talk about matchups, do you like the rule that a reliever has to face at least 3 guys?
Yeah.
I think it's really changed, the strategy. I think it's made the pitchers better because very rarely are you ever going to get the freedom to face the same sided hitter 3 times in a row. Like lineups aren't built that way, rosters aren't built that way. The evolution of pinch hitting more and more, even with the DH, I think that's grown over the years. So the pitchers have had to sharpen their arsenal to be able to get the opposite-handed hitter out, and there's no more free pass to try to expose one guy in the lineup. So when you look at the way our team is attacked, you can't just bring in a lefty for Carp, or you can't just bring in a lefty for Riley, or you can't just bring in a righty for Glaber. There's consequences that come with all these decisions now that didn't exist prior to the 3-batter rule. So I think you've seen less of us on the field making pitching change after pitching change. But more importantly, I think it's sharpened the competition and been good for the game and the players to get to stay in the game.
AJ, with all the lefties that they have on their roster, how important is Tyler Holton, Brent Herter, are they going to be? And then also, too, even your righties who have splitters, right, platoon and neutral pitches, how important can they be?
Yeah, they can be. They're huge. And all of our guys are prepared to pitch, all 3 games. So obviously it's a little different for us in that we are going to have a left-handed starter today, which changes their changes their lineup. The next 2 games will be completely different lineups for them. So ours is a little bit different. We're facing 3 righties and may have a similar lineup in the next couple of days. Believe it or not, with me, I might actually repeat the lineup. There's a need for all of our guys to be good. And I don't know what the moment is. Like, I talked to Jake Rogers this morning that, Dylan's going to get the lion's share of innings behind home plate, but you might end up in the exact spot with the season, at the biggest moment of the season. Maybe I run for ding, maybe I do something different. Maybe something happens and you end up behind the plate defensively in the 8th inning, with the back end of our pen. So you got to stay locked in, and you need all of your players, including the left-handed relievers, or even, the right-handed guys getting lefties out to finish a series with a win.
Couple games, but with this format, where do you fall on the whole rest versus rust? And
Right now, I love that we get to keep playing. I would have definitely jumped ship and gone right to the rest is necessary had we gotten the bye. So I'm just convenience when it comes to answering that question. I think every team needs it a little bit more. I think the momentum part, the teams that are playing well and the energy. Like last year, I would have never wanted any time off. This year that was a long run for us at the end, and we're fine because I was able to rest a lot of guys on Sunday. And we had yesterday as a super light workout. We're ready to go physically, but it kind of depends on where your team's at physically, more importantly than competitively. Competitively, I think that baseball's a game that needs to be played, but it doesn't suck to sit at home and not have the vulnerability of being eliminated over the next 3 or 4 days when you've earned the right to get the bye. So I don't think anyone should take that for granted.
You and Steven, I believe, are among the most likely to use guys all across the roster, right? This time of year where pressure is heightened, decisions come a little faster, how much do you enjoy the chess match?
Yeah, obviously, I love the challenge of trying to put the players in the best position to win. The games are won by the players on the field. My job in this is to compete with the group we have and put them in the best position that I can and let the competition dictate itself. I love baseball. I love every form of baseball. I love when there's less action and the players are out there doing their thing and guys throwing a complete game and the 9 get to play and everybody, goes home happy. I also like the challenge of sometimes you got to use all 13, 14 of your position players and I've used 9 relievers in a playoff game, and that's what the game calls for. So I think as a manager, your job is to play the game with your players to the best of your ability. And more than anything, I love playoff baseball. Like, this is what you do, or what you get when you do all of it right throughout the course of the season and you're one of the last teams standing. And so the thrill of playoff baseball, the chess match, the watching players rise to the occasion, and everything in between is why I love this job.
Phone call. But it was good. Yeah, AJ just let me know, hey, you're gonna go game two. We had met earlier in the day, and he said he was gonna let me know whether it was two or three, and he just called me and said you're gonna go game two. I said let's go. So yeah, that was it.
Obviously, having the experience of having on the other side of where you were,
Yeah.
right? What is the feeling just understanding that you are now getting the opportunity your team trust?
Yeah, it's cool. Means a lot. When Yeah, I look back on it and was told I wasn't going to be on the roster here. It was really tough, but it fueled a lot of my off-season work and some of the things that I wanted to do to get better to never let that happen again. And to have this opportunity a year later in this place is pretty cool for me, just to see that full circle. But yeah, when you have your team trusting in you, your manager trusting in you, you know that's you know that's always a great feeling as a competitor and as a teammate. So yeah.
We've talked a bunch about, what's kind of fueled your late run here, your last five or six starts. In your mind, we talked about the slider, but was there more to it that has got you from where you were to where you are now?
Yeah, that the slider piece has been big. And then just working with Fett and Robin on some mechanical stuff. I was starting to get like too close, so we were kind of just making sure I wasn't, getting into some bad habits there physically. But when it comes to like, mentally, I knew like I was going through a tough stretch, and I knew that we were going to be playing in October, and so I had to look myself in the mirror and say, "Hey, man, don't let this happen again." Look, I want to compete in the postseason, and so it's got to get better. And so I've been throwing the ball better, because of some adjustments I've made, and just realizing that things weren't going great there for a bit in this summer, and I wanted to turn it around.
Are you able to look back on the start in Boston a little bit differently now that you guys have clinched? You're here, you're in the postseason, and what are kind of some of your takeaways from what you did last time out?
Yeah. Well, I think it was the biggest game of my life at the time, and so I was really excited about that opportunity. The atmosphere was great. It felt similar to a postseason atmosphere, which was a good like litmus test for me of like how am I going to handle this, and I feel like I threw the ball pretty well. So yeah, at the time, obviously, was really frustrated with the loss. But I said, maybe I'd be able to look back at a later time, and not exactly now that we're here, I can look back on that and realize that it was um, a good opportunity for me to compete in that atmosphere, and it went pretty well.
In the back now, Jeff, can you put into perspective what it's like to be sitting here now versus what it was like when you entered spring training and questions?
Yeah, there was a lot of unknown then. There still is now. I think that's just a constant in sports, right? Which is what makes it so fun. But yeah, I had a desire to compete hard, make the team, provide value, and win. And coming into spring training, and I still like feel the same right now, which is cool. Just to kind of look back in February, and I journal a little bit, so I was kind of looking back at some of the notes from then that I have, and it's like I still feel a lot of the same way that that I feel then that I feel now. So um, yeah, it's been a long season, and it all comes down to this. But like my focus and my intent and my competitiveness is all still there, and that hunger to provide value is still there as well.
Your thoughts on Jose Ramirez, and do you feel like he's one of the best players you've ever seen hitting and all around? Like, how tough is he to face in the box?
Yeah. It's people ask me like who's some of the toughest players you've ever played against. Jose's one of the first 2 or 3 or 4 that comes out of my mouth. He's like such a talented guy all the way around. Steals bases, hits for power, plays excellent defense. Elite hit tool. Like it's all there. I know he's the leader of that team. And he's a constant. You think of of Cleveland, you think of Jose, so it's a tough challenge anytime we get to play him.
Just on that note, this team has kind of been up and down to their bats. What makes Cleveland so difficult to
Yeah, they just know to manufacture runs, and they don't give up on the inning. I'm not giving up. That you just watch, and you got to get 3 outs with these guys because they can still, do some stuff with 2 outs and manufacture a run there and steal a run from you. It feels like at times. So it's like it's a tough team. It's they do a lot of the little things right. I know that comes up a lot when you talk about this team, and because it's true. So yeah, it's just they're different from the team that's like all swing or miss and slug versus some teams that'll put the ball in play, can also slug as well, but it's just they manufacture runs in a different way. That can be pretty tough on pitchers.
Points over the season about 2 strikes, finishing guys off, the effort to do that. How much does this lineup put a particular challenge on that, the way they can foul pitches off, extend at bats, put balls in play that you might think might be?
Yeah. So you have to kind of pick and choose with certain guys and certain lineups of like not going into the start of I'm not going to try to get swing and miss today or I'm not going to whatever, but you have to realize that, hey, this lineup might be tougher, to go punch out 10, versus another one, right? So it's like we have to make decisions as pitchers sometimes of how much are we going to try to expand the zone with 2 strikes and try to strike them out, or are we just going to, try to stay in the zone and get some swing and miss, but also just try to end the at-bat a little bit quicker than you normally would, so you don't want to have to throw 20, 25 pitches an inning against guys that are going to foul off pitches and get on base, in different ways. So, this is a team that comes to mind when it's, they're tough to, put away at times, so yeah, those are the decisions we have to make, on an outing by outing basis or an inning by inning or hitter by hitter basis.
AJ had referenced having a tough conversation with you here last year around the same time. What do you remember about that? Like where you were, what the emotions were like, when you found out that news?
Yeah, we were shagging BP, and then like the bullpen areas, there's like a fence there, and so like we went in the Guardians bullpen actually, because they weren't out there, and so we went in there, and AJ and Fett let me know that I was going to be left off the roster. And so yeah, it was really tough. And so now, like when I'm doing my bands, like I look down and I see the spot where I was sitting sometimes, and so that bad memories for sure. But it's cool to walk by it now and just say, hey, that's that moment and that place kind of helped change, the pitcher and player that I am. So I'm glad it happened to me in a way. But yeah, it's cool to have those conversations as well.
Expect them to take you back out there to give you the good news?
Yeah, it's AJ came in and found me. I was just in the training room doing some stuff yesterday, and he was like, I was gonna take you out there, but you're here, so I'll just tell you now. Hey, you're on the roster, and I was like, I fake celebrated. It was, yeah. So yeah, we just did it there, but yeah, he joked that he was gonna take me out there again. Yeah.
All right. Thanks for coming in, Casey.
All right, thanks.